Hi, I'm Brian Poole, Technology Coordinator here at National Trail Local Schools, and this is our Parent eDay orientation training. First of all, I guess the most basic question is, what are eDays? eDay stands for Electronic Day or Electronic School Day. The idea is that the state of Ohio, after Mississinawa Valley has done a test last year, has allowed schools to do electronic days in replacement of making them up for Calamity Days 6, 7, and 8. So basically, the first 5 days per Ohio Revised Code that we have to miss school for snow are still not going to be made up. But days 6, 7, and 8 can be made up through these online lessons called eDays. National Trail decided to apply for those so that we could do these electronic days as a way to make up those things that would have been Calamity Days. The intent here is to provide quality, relevant instruction through electronic online means for our students. The biggest thing and the biggest motivator there is to allow us to have those school days prior to OAAs and OGTs. The state of Ohio bases a large amount of our funding and our scoring on how we do on those tests, and making up days after those tests seems unwise to us as educators. Hopefully they'll also be more effective than days that we make up in May or June at the end of the school year. So basically they're electronic days that we're going to do instead of those snow days. The goal here is to duplicate the learning that happens in a typical online day, not necessarily the time. So if your student has a math class, they'll have a math lesson and they'll have a math assessment. Doesn't mean it has to be the exact same amount of time, but we're hoping that it covers the material. And that material can be either new or review material depending on what the teacher decides to do. You will get a one call now call notification from the superintendent saying this is eDay 1 and eDay 1 will be, and here's what it'll be. If your student is a high school student, the first eDay is a brown day, so whatever classes that they have on a traditional brown day are the ones they need to go to and do the lessons for. The second day is orange and the third day is brown. In the middle school it goes brown, orange, and blazer. And in the elementary school all classes meet every day except for specials. So those students will do their classes and I'll show you in a minute how those are set up. But only the specials will rotate. You don't need to write this down. It's just kind of an illustration of how the different classes rotate for different grade levels and how the specials teachers were assigned what classes they're doing on what day. It's to make up the classes that were done on a particular day, and since all specials don't meet every single day, they don't have to have lessons for every single day. So you'll get a one call now notification that it's an eDay. The students should know then what classes they have, brown or orange, and in the case of the elementary school, I'll show you in a minute how those are broken out. So, Ohio Revised Code says that as soon as practical after school closure, the district has to make those eDay lessons available, and it should be appropriate. And who sets those up? We set those up a different way than maybe some schools do. Basically, the way National Trail is going to implement that is that no later than 9 a.m. on the eDay, the lessons will be visible on all the middle sites. Teachers may open their lessons earlier if they have them ready and they want to, but if they call it the night before, a teacher may also want to modify that lesson so it's more relevant to the content of that day. So they still have till 9 a.m. on the snow day, but you may see them open the night before based on when the closure is called. So 9 a.m. is the deadline when the teachers will have them open. Throughout that day, teachers have to be available for questions, and the way that those teachers are available for questions are defined in their lesson, whether they're going to use a forum, an online chat, list their email with a link to their email. That's up to the individual teachers how they're going to be available. The teachers have built all these lessons on their own time in advance, but they're still going to be available for those days for questions online. ORC says how long the students have to get those lessons done, realizing the intent is that the students do them that day. The intent is not that the students go out and play in the snow all day long and then try to make up their lesson later. If they can, parents should try to get their students to get the lessons done that day. However, you were going to have a 2-week period to have them done per Ohio Revised Code. And that's really for parents and students that don't have internet access. You may have internet, but it may have gone down because of the storm, or you may not have internet, but research shows that 80% of people either have the internet, or they have a relative who has internet, or they have a close neighbor who has internet. But if you don't, you have 2 weeks available after the date to get that assignment done, and that's 2 weeks after we get back to school, by the way. And that's what this goes into. Ohio Revised Code specifically says if a student doesn't have computer access, they have at the student's residence, the student has 2 weeks to work on it from when we return to school. ORC says any student who fails to complete the lesson has to get a failing grade, as well as not be counted in attendance for that day. So they'll have a day's absence as well as a failing grade if they don't get the assignment done within the 2 weeks. However, if a student makes it up later, they will be considered in attendance. That does not mean they get a grade for it. That's up to the teacher and the teacher's individual grading policy. If they don't take late assignments, the student had 2 weeks to get it done. That doesn't mean they have to take it late. They do have to take it for attendance, though. Some other things we're going to do. 5 days after the return from the eDay, we're going to do a one call now reminding parents that the eDay assignments due, what day the eDay assignments are due by, and remind them that there'll be a failing grade or other consequences for not getting the eDay done. 14 days after the return from school, there's going to be another one stating that this is when it was due. Parents of students with incomplete eDay assignments will be contacted so they know they didn't get that done. Students in the high school will not be able to waive any semester exams if they didn't get all their eDays done. And the teachers will be providing a list of those students that didn't get it done to the attendance office to have it count as unexcused absence per Ohio Revised Code. As far as student training, teachers went through training and learned how to make eDays. Students are basically going to do the same thing. For every student, prior to December 1st, they'll do a practice eDay lesson in every single course so they understand where they are and the basic implementation and how to do those lessons and how the teachers will be available to get in contact with. These are mini lessons. They're not intended to be a full lesson. They're just supposed to give the student a scope of here's where they are and here's how to do it and here's how I'm personally going to implement my eDay lessons. So they're all going to be doing that. The K through 4 students are going to be doing it during computer specialist rotation in addition to that. As far as how the content's delivered, basically anything that you can get to online is available content. It can be lessons they do that they record. It can be web links to other resources, audio file recordings, YouTube videos. They can use online games. Anything a student can connect to online is something a teacher can use as a content builder or content area that the students will go to and touch on. The teachers during their training will learn about the different kinds of eDay lessons they can build. Don't need to write this down or anything. Basically, they go from basic lessons that are text-based with links and reading all the way up to homemade multimedia and stuff that the teachers can put together and post on the web, either as their own YouTube videos or post on our Moodle site for students to get to that actually mimic an actual lesson, just kind of like we're doing right here. All eDays have to have content as well as an assessment to prove it was done. Those assessments can be worksheets, papers, any kind of project, quizzes. Anything a teacher can grade can count as their eDay assessment, and in the lower grade levels it might be something like a parental signed form saying that yes, I sat down and did this with my student, whatever the activity may be. So that's an available assessment at those lower grade levels to make sure that we have some way of showing the state that yes, we did a lesson, here's the lesson we did, and yes, we had some kind of a tracking mechanism to make sure all the students completed the lessons. This is an example rubric that the teachers had during their initial training on the different kinds of tasks and the different kind of products that a student can have. Again, this is something the teachers have to give them kind of a way to gauge what kind of products that they're having their students engage with. As far as our implementation, I'm going to go and show you how it is. Basically, everything we've got is on Moodle, and the elementary school and the middle school and high school are set up differently Basically, in the middle school and high school, the students are getting to that material all the time. They know their Moodle log on, at least they should. Which brings me to that. Usernames and passwords were mailed home before school started, and subsequent students that enrolled should have had a technology letter sent home from their school office as well. If you don't know your student's username and password, your teacher can give that to you. The office, the high school office, middle school, elementary school office can give that to you as well, so that you know what the student's log on to Moodle and the student's password is to Moodle. In general, you really don't even need it for the elementary school, but you really do need it for the high school and middle school. And it was because of this needing to have a set log on that we assigned students passwords and locked those passwords this year, so that parents would have access to their students' grades throughout the year, assignments, and be able to log on for this in particular. So let's show you how it works. Basically, in a elementary school, your student logs on or just goes to the eDay for that particular grade level. In this case, we're looking at the eDay for 4th grade, but they're all set up exactly the same. When a student logs on, it's going to show the classes they're enrolled in, and one of those classes for elementary school students is going to say kindergarten eDays, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, or 4th grade eDays. If you click on it, they all look exactly like this. They're broken out where it says what the eDay is. There's a section for language arts, math, social studies, or science, and specials. So if your student has an eDay, they're going to have 4 lessons to complete. One for language arts, one for math, one for either social studies or science, and one for whatever the particular specials class is. Now I'll tell you, as teachers build these, they're hidden. And I just happen to use this one because it's got a couple of the practice lessons unhidden. What a teacher does, they have to log on by 9 in the morning and they will unhide the lesson. So you will see eDay 1, eDay 1, eDay 1, eDay 1 lessons show up by 9 o'clock in the morning. In this case, the practice lessons are already built here, which is one of the reasons I picked this. The student would click on it, and then it's got, in this case, what the goal of the lesson is. Here's the lesson. Here's what they're going to learn how to do. Here's the task. In this case, there's a YouTube video that teaches them how to do a particular task. And then later on, it's got problems assigned with that. Now, the practice lessons aren't intended to be 80 minutes or 40 minutes long. They're just intended to let the students see where they are and what kind of thing they're going to look like. But for the parents, you just need to go to there. Now, when I said you don't have to be logged in, I'm not logged in right now. And if you went to the National Trail Moodle site, you don't have to be logged on to see this page right here. I'm just at the Moodle site. And if I was to go, for instance, to 1st grade, one of the very, very top thing here is the 1st grade eDay. So I would just be able to click on that, and then I can see what they've got unhidden right now. And these, again, are all the practice lessons that they're doing with students. And then again, it would not say, the practice lesson might be day, but underneath that would say eDay lesson 1. And it might say what the lesson is underneath there, and you click on it and then go through and do whatever particular lesson that is that they've got set up there for the students. So that's why I said really in the elementary school you don't need to log on. You just come down here, click on the grade level, the very top thing says 2nd grade eDays. I click on that, and then they're all set up the same with a different block for language arts, math, social science, and specials there for the elementary school students. Now that's not true for high school students. Now you could go through every single one of your high school students or middle school students' classes, but it would require you to click, look, click, look, click, look. You'd have to look all through it. Whereas when you log on, as soon as a student logs on, it immediately says their attendance rate in every single class that they've got with their current grade level out on the side. So it's much easier to be logged on for a middle school or high school student. However, once they get logged on, the process is pretty much the same. Every single one of the teachers has an area in the top of their class where their eDays are, and it should be up in the very, very top block. So if the student has, for instance, my computer class for their Brown Day, they would come in, log on, click on the computer class, and right up top, you can see this is grayed out right now. It means students can't see it. As soon as I want to, I just click on it and I'll make that lesson visible. And that's what we said. The lessons are already made, but they aren't supposed to be visible until the eDay happens. So right now, if I wanted to, I could show you what the students can see. When a student's logged on, they just see that. They see eDay, they see my introduction video, a place to ask questions and answers, I've got a forum, and they see the practice lesson that they already have completed in my class. And in that case, this practice lesson has information, YouTube videos, link to outside resources, as well as an essay that they have to complete on the end down there. And that's basically what the eDay looks like in my class. And as you can see, the eDay Lesson 1 and eDay Lesson 2 are already visible. So I'll be able to just click on those and they'll be visible for a student. So your student has to go through, for instance, if a high school student has 4 Brown Day classes, they need to click on all 4 of those Brown Day classes and do the appropriate eDay lesson when we have that. And you can see the other classes are all set up exactly the same. Here's Mr. Bryant's Anatomy and Physiology class. He's got all of his eDays set up. This is all grayed out because this whole thing students don't even see that's there, but he's already got his lessons built and ready to go for his eDay, as does, for instance, Mr. Alexander's got all his stuff set up top. The idea is that students shouldn't have to look for them. They're all going to be right up top, be easy to find, and they've already done a practice lesson with their teachers, so they should all understand that. Again, inside that lesson, it should say how they're going to be contacted. In mine in particular, it says that I'm going to use this forum up here to do questions and answers. And the reason for that is that way everybody can see the questions, everybody can see the answers. It's a little easier. Some students don't like to ask questions. That way, somebody does, they can see somebody else's question and answer. And honestly, this also text messages me too. So if someone puts in a question, I know just like that, if a question's been put in there, I can immediately go get online and answer those questions, which is one of the things I like about using forums. I don't have to go and check my email. It tells my cell phone just like that. Okay, so those are the 2 different ways that we've got those set up. In the elementary school, because we could, we put them all together under their grade level, so all the lessons are brought together for you. In the case of the middle school and high school, the student just has to click on those classes that they would have gone to that day, which is the way most other schools actually are set up in order to go look at those. Again, if you don't know your student's username and password, you can talk to the teacher, obviously talk to your student, or call the appropriate office, and they have access to all those, so they can give those to you at any time if you need to get those. If you have other questions, please feel free to contact the appropriate teacher about eDays in general, your local principal administrator, or you can contact myself as well if you have questions about eDays, Moodle in general, and how those things are going to be implemented. Hopefully that gives you a good basic overview and introduction to how we're going to try out eDays this year at National Trail.